So now the Diddy side is up. All right. So they start off, what's his name? Driscoll gets up. And this is when I started to say this is like a $2 million defense. Because Driscoll starts and he's talking about sentencing disparities. So basically, he starts getting in the guideline range, and this is when he hits them. Let me see it. I know I wrote it down. I was like, oh, they been working. Um, Let me see. Oh, he said this is when he said he read over 900 man at cases. I was like, God, this is what a 2 million. This clearly cost $2 million because you want me to read 900 cases, maybe. God. Anyway, so he Driscoll get up. His whole point is talking about sentencing disparities and basically saying, Judge, you sentenced it to 135 months. That's going to be totally against everything that the government, this court, has ever done about man act cases. It'll be so far off the walls, it'll be appealed. He says that unwarranted sentencing disparities, basically if two people have got convicted of the same crime, similar facts, and you got one sentenced at 20 months, and you got one at 135, and you got another one at 15 months, you got one at 140, like if there's no explanation, meaning it's unwarranted, it was nothing in the facts that made such aggravation between the two cases. If it's unwarranted, it's against the law when it comes to the federal guidelines. They want to protect against that. They also said that for 75 years, that this Mann Act has been in place, that the Department of Justice has always had a general rule when it comes to prosecution, that it should not be prosecuted in a non-commercial case. What that means, if the person isn't doing this for money, if money isn't involved, like it's not this international sex ring of prostitution where 1.4 million has made, or it's not like they're running a sex ring in Vegas and it's like $100,000. Like if it's not something like that where it's a commercial enterprise of prostitution, we don't even bring the Mann Act. That was like a rule. So why are we here? Because Diddy wasn't a commercial Mann Act case. So they said that this case is not comparable. They go to the Jordan case and they start breaking down why the Jordan case is not comparable to Diddy's case, and they start bringing up all the differences. But the thing that stuck out to me, the other case I couldn't remember was Men's Son Show. It's a female. That's right. It was a woman. She international prostitute broker. It's like, dang, folks be getting some crimes out here. It is some crimes out here. So she was an international prostitute broker, access to rings. She profited. And she had 4 cases before they slapped her with a hefty sentence. So they like, Diddy on his first case, Judge, like this doesn't compare. So that's what he broke down. And he said he read all of those cases. So out of the 900 cases, 378 where the defendant was actually convicted and sentenced. So basically, I think the judge had said something like, this is a hard man act case. Like this is a man act case. And they're like, no, judge, it's not. One, there were no minors being abused. There were no brothels involved. What else he said? That in those other cases, the actors were pimps. And they're saying Diddy's not a pimp because he's the one not doing it for money. He's not prostituting the women out to make money. So he's not a pimp. But of course, the government came back at the end and likened him to a pimp and just talks about his power being currency and all of that stuff. That the women, let me see. That when you have a pimp, when you have something that's a pimp, right? That you got minors being abused, you got the brothels, you got the pimp, like, forcing the women into prostitution. Usually the victims are drug addicts, they're homeless, mentally ill, something like that. Like Cassidy and Jane and none of that. Like Diddy's not a pimp. They were trying to separate him from that categorization to show why he shouldn't get this 135 months. Because Diddy didn't make any money from the case. The government says control is his currency. And then Driscoll says, not in this case, Diddy didn't do it for personal gain. He just did it like sexual pleasure. It wasn't personal gain, but in that kind of the same, it is a personal gain, even though it wasn't currency gain. It was your sexual pleasure. You wanted to watch your girlfriend have sex with an escort and then rub the semen on your nipples. Like that was your choice. That was your personal pleasure. Like freaky shit. That's that. So I don't really buy that all the way. Let me see. Oh, okay. So then he starts to break down. So they said they took all of these cases, 378, where somebody was sentenced and convicted. They made a graph chart and they basically could see everybody who had their only one, like this was their first conviction. They were sentenced to the average was 12 months and a day. I'm sorry, 12 months and a day was the median. These are motherfuckers in here doing geometry. This shit. I was like, what? How this is a $2 million defense. They said 12 months and a day is the median average. And then, median. And then the average is 14 months. So anyway, Judge, we're asking for the average. So this is where Diddy should fall. And then they said, even when there was the fraud and coercion enhancement, that the average was 28 months. So Judge, we still should be down here on this side of the range, not the 135. The victim grouping, remember I told you all that the judge in the pre-sentence report said that they were going to loop the escorts into the victim group. So now instead of 2, it was going to be 8. The victim grouping added 5 levels. That's why I said when the judge said that he was going to do that, on top of adding that like 2 points for coercion and 2 points for that, I already knew we had jail time. We had prison time. So, and then Driscoll points out that, well, you got the Nabbitt case where it was 7 victims and they didn't have any grouping and they got 18 months. So they just kept, that's what the defense started out. So they're all 5 attorneys, well, not all, but 5 attorneys spoke. And each attorney had a different purpose. And Driscoll's purpose was to talk about this sentencing disparaging and talk about the different cases and stuff and how they should be compared. And he listed some other cases and gave like similar sentences. Judge's case was 18 months. This is comparable to Diddy. He should get this time. So that's pretty much what Driscoll spent his time doing, basically countering the government asking for this 135. Let's see. Customer. Oh, yeah. They just kept talking about cases because he brought up a Diggs case where he was like a repeat customer of the madam. She supplied him a 14-year-old girl. He paid for that. And they talked about his sentence. And I think his penalty was 24 months. And they're like, Judge, that was like a heinous crime. Diddy didn't do something that bad. So, but the government and the judge they both felt like Diddy did something that bad. They felt like the violence and the coercion and the force into the sex act was that bad. So to them, it was on the level of this 14-year-old girl to them. So nobody else was buying this whole Diddy shouldn't be treated as harshly as anything. Yeah, they just kept on arguing that his case is categorically different than the other 900 cases. So 14-month sentence is the only sentence you can do, Judge. I know the judge is in there like, hold my beer, because I already got some other shit written down. All right, Ms. Westmoreland went second. She started out talking about that Diddy has, Nene, thank you so much, sis. Nene, shout out to Nene, has sent a $50 super chat. Oh, that is so appreciative. Thank you so much. Thank you for the support. I love y'all. Thank you. That was so great. Nene has been alive the whole time, cheering on, checking in with me throughout the day. So I really, really appreciate that. Nene, tell me where you're from. Where do you stay? I'm gonna try to catch it in the chat. So thank you so much. T Nicole, I'm about to get into it. You asked the question. Oh, you're so welcome. She says, thank you for your time and coverage. I greatly appreciate that. Thank you so much. You are so welcome. It was an amazing day, y'all. So I was so happy to be here. So thank y'all for tuning in and listening. All right. So T Nicole, about to come down that road. All right. So Nicole Westmoreland was up next. She is from Atlanta, Georgia. I do not know Nicole personally. I have seen her in court several times. The criminal defense attorney world in Atlanta is small. We see each other in court all the time. She became, I guess, famous or to you all through the YSL trial. She worked with Bruce Harvey on that case and represented, I should remember his name. It's like, what is his name? Quinn. It'll come back to me. Y'all know all the funny names from the YSL trials. It's one of the long ones. But anyway, I interviewed his wife for my first live for my channel, October 28th last year. So check that out. But so that's where she got her claim to fame from. And then her and Brian Steele were hired to represent Diddy. I guess they were like the last two that were added to the defense team. So her purpose and what she talked about was Diddy's impact on the community as a whole. Like the things he did, like Vote or Die, running the New York Marathon, donating to the books. That's what she talked about. So she starts out help and inspiration. Combs has gone through his life. Let me see. He used his resources to help others. He started a record label. Not a lot of Black people at this time, had labels. He had the audacity to do it anyway. He was a he was a something. What does it say? Something producer. Okay. He what else? It sent a message that you can do it, change the industry and the culture. When he entered the fashion industry, there were not many Black fashion designers. He basically, changed, because y'all know Sean, the line was more than Black people can only wear like urban wear. It was like we can look good wearing anything. We can wear button downs, we can wear, slacks. So it was, we can wear nice suits. And so that is kind of the basis of the line. She talked about that. It showed the country that you could have that we could wear, other different things. He won Men's Wear Designer of the Year. He broke barriers. He was the first Black male designer to win this award in 23 years. After getting the award, he would then teach others on how to develop their own lines and teach them how to, basically the same thing he's doing in the prison. What else she talked about? She talked about, just wasn't traditional wear. It was upscale design. Let me see. He inspired change that affect the business still to this day. He helped others open their line. And then I was like, who? I don't know. I just started thinking about all the with you when you're right. With you when you're right. With you when you're right. Look, I kind of feel like that too. I kind of feel like it's they hired to do a job, they're gonna do it. Period. And I ain't talking about just the criminal defense job. Whatever you want me to get up here and say, I'ma do it. That's what I got. So let me go back. So Westmoreland is reading this. She's talking about Diddy helped others, clothing line. But then I was thinking who else did he help start? I don't know everything he's helped done. I just know all the artists always complain they don't ever get their money they broke. So I don't know who all he's helped put on, but that is kind of what they were saying. He created a model of brand collaboration that he did. Let me see. He allowed the Black community to have a seat at the table. He then moved on to help others, and then she started crying. I was like, when she started crying, I was like, is she crying? Like everybody kind of like, is she crying? Because it was just like, it kind of started where we weren't for sure. And then it continued. She said when he started Revolt, and gave Black journalists the opportunity. Okay, I'm not gonna do this. It's late night. I'm about to start acting a fool. I'm not gonna mock that. I'm gonna see her in court. I'm not gonna mock that. But anyway, she starts crying more. She says that, he gave Black journalists the opportunity to have a voice on Revolt, that this was one of Mr. DeCombs' missions, was to show his community that they were important. He didn't just sit around and enjoy his success, he helped others. He had spent a lot of time and effort to help individuals who were trying to, feed their goals and their dreams, and crime got worse. He opened 3 charter schools. Let me stop. In poverty-stricken neighborhoods. They were high quality school, college preparatory focus. Main model was excellence. Mr. Combs was focused and dedicated himself to making true change for the students. For always, forever, for life, I did not understand it either. I have been doing this for 20 years. I have dropped tears for clients. I'm not going to act like I've never cried for a client. Most recently this year, top of this year, I had an 18-year-old in Fayette County. Anybody in Georgia know Fayette County don't play the radio. And he had committed 2 armed robberies, and I fought like hell to get him less time than what the law was saying he deserved. But the judge was not buying it. And we had a meeting in chambers, which is in the back with the judge, me and the DA. We made our presentation. I had come up with all this mitigation. I had talked to a Georgia Supreme Court judge and got her opinion on it. And I spoke about that in there. I mean, I had done everything. And when I finished, the judge was like, yeah, you need to take the 20 years that the state is offering, because if not, I'm going to give your client life to serve 20, which would have meant my client would have been on parole for the rest of his life after he got out of the 20. I cried. I said, a tear fell, and I was like, oh my God. I was like, just give me a minute. Just give me a second. And I just had to sit back there and just cry for a second before I could go out. I've teared up before at the podium when I'm speaking and it's a sad moment or other people are crying and giving statements or whatever. I have never cried the way Ms. Westmoreland cried during this presentation. I'm not sure if it really started to feel performative towards the end, because it got worse and worse. And it almost, I was like, y'all fucking, like, girl, you crying like this, your man. Like, get it together. Pull it together. Pull it together. So I don't know. It started out kind of like, oh, this, your attorney really cares about you. She's shedding tears. And then it went to, girl, you doing too much. Reel it in. Reel it in. But she stayed with it. I'm talking about she was snotting and everything. I was like, oh, wow, this is a lot. She said that he has to live with this. Let me see, he's employed thousands of people over the years. The companies that he that he had were very diverse. This is what I said too. I was like, Lord, how much did she doing way too much? She was doing way too much. She was doing way too much. She lost it. It's like she couldn't come back. Had to stay with it. She was doing way too much. Way too much. She said he's really inspired generations, vote or die, focus on getting the young individuals to vote. Then she really lost it. And she started talking about her own personal experience when she went, that he personally inspired her 8 years ago during the month of September. She went, one of her main goals was to do something about mass incarceration. She attended a conference in DC, and Diddy spoke at this conference. She listened, engaged. Diddy said something so profound that she has held on to it to this day. And tears increased. And she said, y'all, I saw one of my, I'm not going to do it though. I can't. If she was not a lawyer, I would, Marky, y'all. I just can't do it. I ain't scared of nobody, but I just ain't going to mess with it. Because I don't know if it was sincere or not. And I don't want to do it if it was truly sincere, but it did not appear that way. But she said that he said, don't be afraid to dream. Just remember to wake up. And I was like, I just was waiting on so much more with all the tears. I was like, where is the rest? Okay. So he said, don't be afraid to dream. Just remember to wake up and put action behind your dreams. If you don't remember anything, else that I say today is your dreams. What is it? What she say? Remember, as you access your dreams, don't forget to help others. I was like, girl, you up here crying. Okay, I'm glad somebody else said that Diddy told him to put on the show because I was telling my bestie that came up here with me that I felt there was a couple times because I'm sitting behind Diddy. I'm maybe like 6 rows behind him so I can see him. That in the podium that they were speaking from is to the right. That he would look at them like, you better do what I told you to do. That's the look he was giving. Like he wasn't saying no fucking words. But the look on his face, I saw it twice. It just was like, it wasn't a look of like I'm looking over there to see what you're doing. It's like I'm looking at you like, like do what I tell you. He didn't turn the head, but it was just like a straight look. But what I felt was a look of do like I said. Like I'm still in control. Like do like I'm telling you to do. So maybe that's what he did. Maybe he told her to put that show on because I ain't never seen nothing like it before. And it really gave this my man. I don't know. It just was weird. It just got weird. It was like touching at first, but it got to be too much that she could hardly talk. Like it was at a funeral. Like it was weird. And then when the words, I was like, girl, got me thinking this man didn't change your life. But maybe it did. Anyway. Okay. So I made in my note a lot of tears. The judge didn't really look moved. He didn't look moved at all. It looked like, what the hell is going on? She said, he's not above the law. He's just a man who made a mistake, but he can help and change so many lives. It's not fair to take that away from him. He will say, I want to say somewhere along the way. Oh, somewhere along the way, he lost his way. He's clear-headed now. He's drug-free. He's remorseful. I spent almost every day with him, Your Honor. He gets it. Simply put, he gets it. After getting himself together, he realized that the people around him had given up on life. Is this somebody else? I think this may be. Is this still her? Oh, okay. Yep. I think she's still wrapping up. So she said, after getting himself together, he realized that the people around him had given up on life. His personality has a desire to help other people, even when he's going still through his own struggles. So he noticed that many people locked up at the MDC didn't have much education. There weren't a lot of programs there. And so this is when he started the free game with Diddy class. Everyone was divided in his unit, and because they were a mixture of, so I guess out of 25 people in his unit, some were Hispanic, some Black, some white, some gang, blood, whatever. So they would have fights and stuff like this every day. And once Diddy started teaching the class, he had one rule. So basically, he first started kind of just talking about business skills on a one-on-one basis with people. So certain inmates, he strike up a conversation, see what their passion was, and he would just pour into that one person. Well, then he realized that so many of them were eager to get knowledge. And so instead of talking to them one-on-one, he said, I'll develop this class. But he told them he would only teach them the class if they would agree that they will be peaceful and they will all do it together. He wasn't going to teach them individually. He wasn't going to teach just the Bloods, the Crips, but he said, y'all got to come together. And from the day he started teaching the class, there were no more fights in his unit. They all got along. So that was a big play. And that's a good thing. And the judge even said it in his sentencing, like, I hope you continue the work that you've done with this. Although Diddy kind of gave, like, I'm going to kick all this shit over. I ain't doing another goddamn fuck y'all in them classes. I don't know. We're going to see. But that's the kind of, y'all, he wanted to go home. So that's the kind of attitude I got today when he left. Like, fuck them classes. But he probably will continue doing them. But he probably going to need a couple of weeks before he started back teaching them damn classes. Because the classes was like a really big part of how they felt like he was going to go home. Yeah, yep, Michelle, thank you for reminding them. Don't forget to hit the like button. Um, Someone, okay, let's go. Lorenzo Casey says, with this appeal that his lawyer is going to put into place, why did it be free within a year or less? The best is yet to come. I doubt it. I doubt it. In order for him to be free off of his appeal, it would mean that the court would say that the judge misapplied something in the sentencing guidelines or something. Judge Submaranian was so detailed that I would be surprised if there was an error that popped up. But really, just honestly, what they're going to argue is that they feel like the leveling should be here and all these aggravating factors shouldn't have been applied. But I don't know. We'll see if they kick it back. My humble opinion says, Fit Lawyer, I started watching you on Lead Attorney and I really enjoy listening to you. This is an excellent live. Thank you. Thank you so much, sis. Just shout out to TLA. I talked to him earlier and told him how amazing New York was. So he is doing well. So thank you for that. All right. So then she went into the MDC's evaluation of the class because I remember I told y'all that they had submitted an evaluation today. And so she said basically the staff sat through the class. It's a 6-week course. They also worked with talked to the inmates that had been coming through the class, and they felt like it was excellent, gave it excellent markings, and so they wanted that report to be included. And then we got ready to take the judge says, okay, what's going on? How many more people got left? So she was done. She said her crying self down. You could tell, like, originally, right, it was supposed to be the kids, the video, and then Brian Steele. Well, because we had this lunch break, we come back in and it starts up with Brian Steele. He should have changed the first sentence of his opening because he opens it and says, well, of course, y'all know how Brian Steele, if you watch the Wyatt Steele trial, he's overly gracious. Okay, so I want to thank this honorable court for allowing me to practice in this majestic building. You're like, Brian, get the book. If y'all know Brian Steele lay it on thick, baby. He take the Southern charm to like 3,000. So he says, I want to thank you for letting me practice in this majestic building. Want to thank this honorable court for the opportunity. But then he says, I sit here with tears in my eyes because I can't believe we're here. I'm like, bro, you ain't even start crying yet. We just got back from lunch. Brian, ain't nothing emotional happened yet. They was just laughing and playing. We just got back from lunch. We not there yet. But when you've been practicing something, you got your speech, sometimes it just flows like that. But I was kind of like, like somebody said earlier, Westmoreland is still put on the show. They put on the show. So he says, I stand here with tears in my eyes and I can't believe we're here. He's imparted the world. Did he say imparted? Imported? What did I write there? He's something, the world, so many people. How do we get here? We trust you to fashion a sentence because the jury has spoken. This moral man, this is still talking about Diddy. He says, this moral man, the hardest working person I've ever known, religious family man, has untreated trauma, ferocious drug addiction that got out of hand and saw Sean at times flatline. At the age of 3, his father was murdered and he has no memory of him. His mom's brother overdosed on drugs, raised in Harlem, put where police were afraid to go. There was prostitution, drug abuse, killings, gangs. His mom worked 3 jobs. She drove a school bus. She worked at some kind of facility with disabled person, and I missed the third one. She saved up a lot of money so that they could move the family to Mount Vernon. And when they moved to Mount Vernon, he was one of the only African-American families in the neighborhood. He encountered racism. Kids would not play with him. He was called the N-word. And so during the daytime, when his mom was at work, Diddy would go back to Harlem so that he could, be back around his friends. One of the most intelligent persons I know. He withdrew from Howard University after his second year because he had dreams of something bigger. He interned at a record label, did grunt work. And as he would be in the studio sessions, they started to see that his ear was better than anyone else's. Sean would change the fashion in the videos. He became the head of A&R, and then he started Bad Boy Records. Diddy had a no drugs in the studio policy when he was a producer. And a lot of people in the courtroom, when Brian Steele said this, were kind of like nodding their heads in agreement. Like that was his policy, no drugs in the studio. And he said his best friend died in his arms in LA. He had two friends gunned down in Atlanta, but Diddy didn't take time out to grieve. He just kept working. He was trying to break down barriers, and he has an operation and gets addicted to painkillers. And then he said he's been high every day since then. He was medicating because his body was hurting. His emotions were hurting. On occasion, he would hit the woman he loved. And this is where, Brian Steele is an amazing attorney, but discounting, and the team talk. This is Diddy's defense team. This is the strategy they took. They kept discounting Cassie being a victim, and discounting the violence that she suffered, and discounting what she went through. So that was a theme that kept coming up during the testimony. So this is when he got into it again. He says on occasion he would hit the woman he loved. It's kind of insensitive, right? It's kind of insensitive. Sean has always taken responsibility to the Mann Act, and Brian says he would have taken a plea, but he wasn't ever given a chance because his charges included RICO and sex trafficking, and the government never offered him a plea just to the Mann Act. Brian said he bangs his head against the wall, remembering each strike that he gave Cassie. Now, I don't know if he was just talking about the strikes in the video or he meant like every time he abused them, but the defense tried to really make it seem as if the only violence was this video. So he said, he bangs his head against the wall, remembering this violence to Cassie. He prays for everyone that he's hurt and for their healing. He's been at the MDC for 12 months and 17 days. The guard stopped a person. I don't know when this occurred, but a person with a shank had gotten on top of Diddy trying to harm him, and the deputies had to stop it. He hasn't slept for any more than 2 consecutive hours since he's been in custody. He talked about the room that they shared. There's 25 people in this room, and it's the toilet, the refrigerator, the dirty water that they have to boil before they can drink it. He talked about, just how it is in prison. Separated from his family, he lost his businesses. He has to take, we know you have to take into account the totality of the person, and he's just like laying it all out. His name once had prestige. He has dedicated his work to helping people. He raised millions in that New York inner city, the New York Marathon that he ran. He talked about how he raised millions in that and gave it to the school system. He talked about the thousands of people who now want to remove the fact that they worked for Sean Combs from their resume. Like he has to live with all of that. His family loves him. He does have true friends, and he says some of them are here today. Even in his broken state, being locked up at the MDC, he still was trying to help others. He said that jail is built on hopelessness, and Diddy noticed that and pulled together, the inmates and stuff to try to give them hope. Cedar, they said they're boiling water because the water is polluted, and that they can't drink it. So, Nene, you said I'm killing you. What am I doing something? Is that good or bad? So that's going on. So they can't drink the water. So they have to boil it. So he said that was an issue. Brian Steele talks about somebody named Charles Scruggs, who was an inmate that was locked up with Diddy as well. He was released in his own house arrest, and they were saying that he wanted to speak to the court about how impactful Diddy was to the MDC because he had been there prior to Diddy getting there and he was there after and while Diddy was there and now he's home. But of course he couldn't come because he's on house arrest. But he's like, I'm by my court ordered phone. If you all want to call me and I can speak. The judge didn't call, but they talked about that. Brian Steele talked about incarcerating Diddy is warehousing him. Basically, he's no reason for him to be incarcerated. He's already basically rehabilitated himself. This court can use him, let him get the help, counseling, and therapy he needs to be with his family. Oh. Days of Our Lives says, "You good. This is such a great recap. I feel like I'm be court. I'm at court in my bed. Yes. I have to see there. I have no clue how they're boiling water. When he said that, I have no clue. Look, these inmates come up with some shit. They in there like making wine. They do all kind of stuff in prison. So I can't tell you how they did it. I don't know. I don't ask. Like as defense attorneys, when our clients tell us they doing stuff, we don't ask. Plausible deniability shit. I don't want to know because if it comes up later, I can act like I ain't never know. So I have no clue how they boiling water. Let me see. What else? Let me see. Oh, then they spoke to like this whole speaking engagement thing. So I remember I told you how he had some classes set up for next week. And then Steele talks about how October 6th is occurring because other people realize that Diddy can change lives. He says an environment like prison is not proper for people who need treatment. They kept saying that Diddy needs counseling and he needs drug treatment, but he definitely didn't need prison. You can use him as a tool so that other people don't sit in his seats. The court made a finding that this was coercion force. And this is where Brian took a turn for the worse. Not the worst, but he took a right and he should have just stayed on the path. So he speaks to the judge, adding like that leveling due to coercion and force, and pulls out the transcript and quotes sentences from Cassie to prove to the court that she was down for it and she wanted it. And I was just like blown away that this was happening at the sentencing hearing. He says Miss Ventura agreed to engage in the first freak off because she wanted to make the defendant happy. She didn't want to make him mad. She didn't want to tell him that she didn't want to do it anymore. She didn't want him to regret having shared this vulnerable side of him. So he liked these free calls. He shared it with her and wanted her to participate. She didn't want to say no because she didn't want Diddy to feel bad that he was, that he shared this vulnerable part. Like, and I've got a line that says not helpful. Not helpful. Like, no. Like, what are we doing? We are at sentencing. You have been convicted of the Mann Act. Why are you still standing up here trying to make this girl not seem like she's a victim? Cut it. Did not go over well. The government immediately responded to that in rebuttal, and the judge addressed that as well. So that was not a good move. Now, while it's true, I believe it's true that she did participate in things that she didn't want to do and all that kind of stuff. This ain't the time to harp on that. That's my point. Like, this, read the room. This is not the time at all. He's like, she was just in love and wanted Diddy to be happy. Like, they're still trying to discredit and minimize this impact that this pain and torture had on Cassie's life is not the right move. This girl is talked about literally wanting to commit suicide behind some of these actions. So you talking about she wanted it, we not there. Like, let it go. So it was kind of cringy when he got into that. Yes. Chelsea Lynn NC says, yeah, that is wild, rehashing it from the transcript. Yeah, he was actually citing the line numbers and reading it from the transcript. And I'm like, wow, that was a little cringe. So then Steele argues like, you're not sentencing Sean for sex trafficking or RICO, but for the Mann Act. Basically, don't consider all that stuff. Like, Stay focused, Judge. We're just here about transportation for prostitution, not violence and RICO and all that stuff. He says if released, um, he'd like to go back to Miami and care for his mother. Um, mm, mm, mm. He talks about those people. Melnick and Bryant have the resources, the doctors, somebody he can work with to make sure that he gets every bit of therapy that he's supposed to get, that he needs. He will speak openly about what it's like to be in jail, lose his businesses, hurt to those you love, and being away from your family. Like these are things he'll speak to others about as he's trying to help them. Then he brought up John Lennon, which is something that Brian still likes to use, like, big artists or whatever to compare. Like I think he compared Young Thug to John Lennon too. He compared Young Thug to somebody. He might have used John Lennon on Thug too. But anyway, he says John Lennon once explained he's a violent man, and he said he doesn't know why he is. He just is. And he's saying back then we didn't have the things we have now that can help people like John Lennon. Like he needs counseling. He needed counseling. He needed help back then, but we didn't have it. So Diddy can get the help he needs to be a better person. He says Diddy wants to be a dad again, a son, someone who is not crying out. Allow Sean to be sentenced to 14 months. Allow Sean Combs. Oh, Sean Combs is a leader. And then Brian said Sean Combs is a civil rights leader. His good outweighs his bad. And then they had Dr. Cedar Elves, you gotta go now. You sleeping. No, Cedar, stay. Y'all motherfuckers made me stay up and keep talking about this shit. You gotta stay on with me. No, I'm just playing. You can always come back later and check it out. Thank you so much for your well wishes. Thank you for that from your lips to God's ears. Thank you. And I'm almost done, so we all about to be going to sleep with Cedar soon. So next up was Mr. Gary, Dr. Gary Johnson. That was the guy from the King Clergy Group. So he was allowed to speak for a couple of minutes, and he's a former president of the SCLC and the new president of King Clergy. And he basically just spoke as like, he kind of reminded me like a civil rights leader. Like he just basically was speaking like, look, give us back our son. We'll hold on to him. We'll make sure he get the counseling he need. We'll make sure he get back on track. You done got 12 months and a couple of weeks out of him. We're going to give him back to us and we'll take care of him. That's basically everything that he was saying. Like, we'll just make sure that he stays on track. And we'll make sure that he, gets the counseling he needs and all of that. He says if you give him an opportunity, he won't be back because he made a mistake. He'll be back to say thank you. And then he said, Jordan's mom once said, these sneakers are just sneakers, but when my son puts them on, they are Jordan. So, just to say, like, Sean is a special person. He has that special touch. He's developed a course inside the prison that they haven't had developed in ever. So he's just trying to say, like, he's such a special person. He needs a chance. Give him a chance. He says, give him to us and let us redeem him. Next up was Xavier Donaldson, tall, dark, and handsome on the legal defense team. He said, Judge, it's been a long day, but I think it's worth it. He said, we do believe that up to 14 months is enough. Collateral. Oh, so he talked about collateral consequences. That was his big thing. He talked about how the kids will be impacted. And so that the judge basically should consider the collateral consequences of sentencing Diddy to prison. And that you won't just be punishing him, you'll be punishing more people. You'll be taking somebody away that's been inspiring, positive, uplifting to the Black community. Like, you need to take into consideration, the love that Diddy has for his family. And then he went into explaining why Diddy wasn't a pimp. He says Diddy is not a pimp. Pimps seek women out to prostitute them to other people for money. He says Mr. Combs is not in the business of doing that. And then he talked about, we got two people here Who was the real Sean Combs? What you read in the letters, heard from the family in the video, or the person before the drugs, the focused person, the determined person, the dedicated person, that person still exists. So although you see everything that the drug addicted person did, the real person is the person that you hear about in the letters, the consistent person that you keep hearing about, the person who developed the free game course. That is the real Sean Combs, and that is who you're sentencing. Don't think about the drug addicted person, think about this person. That is who we want you to apply the 14 months to. He said drug addiction is not an excuse. We're not using it as an excuse, but it's just, explaining. He says that Mr. Combs flatlined off of these drugs, and it was a tragedy. Tragedy. Sorry. Nene sends a $2 super chat. Thank you so much, Nene. She says, join me in contributing to this talented lawyer. Oh, thank you so much, Nene. That's so sweet. I really appreciate that. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So, Donaldson says it's not lip service to talk about his engagement. So then he went to go further explain this whole speaking engagement thing because, like, the government was not feeling it at all. So he says that it's not lip service, that he basically had these engagements to set up to be able to show them that if you give him a chance, he's not just going to be out here throwing all white parties next week, Judge. He's going to be good, putting in work to go back and inspire others. He said the true Sean Combs come back. He says that Xavier says that when he heard about the course, it had never happened before, so he kind of investigated. He said he called the prisons in Florida, called and asked them, talked to them about it, got them interested. So they looked at the course and were like, "Oh my God, this is amazing! We don't have anything like this here either." So Diddy, can you come down and do the course for us as well? So he's trying to explain, like, Judge, this is not a speaking engagement. This is a teaching moment. He's going to inspire others. That's why we had this set up, and that's how the judge received it. He spoke at the end and said he didn't have any problem with that, and so that's how he received it as well. Let's see who talked after. Okay, so after Donaldson went, they brought up the reentry guy, Giovanni. And I will say, like, Giovanni wrote a very detailed letter. So the judge was kind of like, I already saw his letter. Is he going to say something that he ain't already said in the letter? Because I already saw a very thorough letter. And he says, well, Judge, he asked the judge, like, you know what? Don't even worry about it. Like, in other words, look at the clock. It's like, it's about 4:15 now, because now I'm looking at the clock on the wall. He said, yeah, he can come on in. So he lets him come on in. So Giovanni comes in. What was good about Giovanni is that he was a formerly incarcerated person himself. And when he was locked up, he actually developed a life skill course. And his course basically was being received the same way Diddy's course was. Like, it was the first thing done in his prison. So once he got out, he basically continued to help the other inmates, started a whole nonprofit they're working with. This nonprofit has gained a lot of success because there truly is not a lot of classes in these prisons. So these guys just go to prison and they're just fighting for their life. They're not in there really bettering themselves. So when you have a really good course that the inmates get, tackle, and they love, and it kind of like really inspires them and gives them that hope, it's something that they're excited about. So he did the same thing. It's not like recently, this was like years ago. So he talks about that. He says, like, one good thing with their nonprofit is that their philosophy is that those that are closest to the problem are usually closest to the solution. And I'm like, that is a good point. So he said, a lot of times they'll put people in these programs and they be ran by people who had never had drug addictions, never, and so they don't even relate to the people. So it wasn't a successful course. But when you have somebody who actually has been there, done it, then that makes the course more successful. And that's why they like Diddy's course, and they wanted him to come in and help them with their recidivism, with the inmates that they work with, so that they could cut down on recidivism. So it was really impactful to hear him speak. It was like, oh, okay, so it's not just like they got Diddy go do these speaking engagements, these teaching, like this program, like it's really like a full circle thing, right? So that was really good. So hopefully Diddy does continue to work with them, and he ain't just like kicking the table over the night and saying F that class. But hopefully he continues, because he's going to be in custody for at least a couple more years. So maybe he can put some more work into it and get it set up. So we are nearing the end. So let me see what y'all over here talking about. For always, forever, for life. Calling him a civil rights leader was not a good look. Cause what the fuck, right? I was like, civil rights. I mean, you did the vote or die, but I don't think we ever considered Diddy to be a civil rights leader. I mean, you broke some barriers. Not gonna take anything from him, but a civil rights leader. Oh, thank you so much. Net418 says, thank you for all you do. I've been following since TLA. You're amazing. Oh, thank you so much. Like, you never know who's watching, y'all. That is so cool. I'm seeing some new people from Lee's channel. So shout out to you all. Thank you so much. Net418 for the $5 super chat. Appreciate you, sis. Y'all got me long stroking this thing tonight, boy. Mm. All right, so next up was, and last before Diddy, was Ignifilo. He spoke. He basically kept it kind of, he was kind of short with it. He just basically said, Judge, we asked him for 14 months. And at this point, the judge looked like he over it. He's not, I don't see him taking no notes. He just kind of like this. And like, he's already little. Like, you gotta look like this courtroom is huge. It's a big courtroom, and the distance between me and the judge is almost, it feels like half a football field. Like it's far. And then he's got this big, massive, bench that he's sitting behind, and then he's like this. It's so funny. Look at it. It's like this big grand courtroom, and it's like this little bitty person up there. And his little bitty head, but he was over it. He was just kind of like, go ahead. I noted in my notes. He looks like he's over it at this point, because now it's about like about 4 o'clock now. So Agnifilo, he's talking about that Diddy suffers from PTSD, and this is from the reports the doctors did. Although we can't determine what this domestic violence. He also said domestic violence comes from trauma. He also talked about Diddy has PTSD, but they can't determine what exactly caused the PTSD, but PTSD. That he also was said to have major depressive disorder and major anxiety disorder, and that he had heavy drug use. So that came out. He talked about him being punished in a very public way, how he, how that when the home was raided, that his kids were held at gunpoint. So that came out. So that was interesting for him to talk about, like, basically saying, like, hey, look, this is like a big deal. Like, Diddy has been punished already for this because he's been punished publicly. Everybody know his business. Everybody knows he likes semen rubbed on his nipples. Everybody knows like to have free calls. Everybody knows that he likes to hire men and watch them have sex with the women that he claims he loves. Like, all his business is out there. So he's been punished enough. This is a deterrent. You don't need to punish him anymore. He needs mental health treatment. He needs domestic violence treatment. And he needs to only be able to take drugs if they're prescribed from a doctor. He said, so we're not asking for a light sentence, but we're asking for the root of the problem to be addressed. And he says, I'm so grateful for the time Your Honor has devoted to this case. And then he sits down. So at this point, that's the end of one notebook. I took that was one notebook. We almost learned though. So he sits down. He's like, they rest. So the government started. So he's like, now Slavic jumps back up so she can just do her response. And she just is really quick. She's just like, Judge, I just want to talk a couple of things. Driscoll was saying, that Driscoll was the first attorney that spoke for Diddy. Remember, he is the one that focused on the sentencing disparities and talking about how these are all these different cases, and we only found that we only applied, 12 months to this stuff. So that's Driscoll. So she says the highest level in Driscoll's chart, because remember I told you they took all 900 man at cases and put together a chart. They said that, Judge, this chart is irrelevant to this case because this chart, the highest level on this chart is a 20. You've already said, Judge, that this defendant is leveled at a 27. So therefore, throw this chart away. It's irrelevant. And it highlights further that each case under the Mann Act is a case-by-case basis. So all of this comparison with the different cases and stuff is really irrelevant because you've already said he's at a 27. And so therefore, this chart goes up to a 20, throw it away. They say here we had 8 weeks of trial. And when you pull cases off this whole out of the 900 that had trials, that people were sentenced to 120 months, 135 months, even 180 months, with similar violence that is in Diddy's case. He said she said Diddy knew exactly what he was doing. He knew it was wrong and illegal, and he did it for 15 years. And then they brought up, because the defense attorney, it's just certain things that are going to be sticking points in your case that no matter how much you don't like them, you just have to live with the facts. And Diddy was under investigation and he didn't stop. She said pimps exploit and control victims. That is exactly what the defendant did. Oh, and remember how I told y'all they brought up this whole 1.4 million from the Dylan case, trying to show how that's different from Diddy's case? She said, Judge, we talked about 94 freak offs in this case. 94. At $5,000 per escort, and freak offs happens weekly. That 1.4 million they talked about, it would buy 117 freak offs. And we talked about 94. So they said, take that. That's how we get to this 135. I'm like, 94 freak offs? Yeah. So 94 times he hired escorts, 94 freak offs. No wonder the judge said it's massive. Judge Submaranian sit up there like, what the hell? The judge up there like, I ain't never seen nothing like this before. So he clearly was like, he going to jail. Also, the government said there were dozens of text messages from Diddy showing that he had verbal abuse as well, not just physical. What else? Oh, she talked about Diddy's IG apology, claimed that he had hit rock bottom and was a changed man. Y'all remember that when he apologized to Cassie? He had like a little loose little t-shirt, and he was sitting like he was, I don't know, like he was in Bali somewhere. I didn't know where he was. Somebody in the wilderness apologizing and saying he was a changed man, and he literally continued to have freak offs after that. So they're like, yeah, whatever. So they're like, discount everything you hear out this man's mouth, every letter is performative. He's full of it. Behind closed doors, he is beating people and everything. And then she even mentioned Steele. Remember I told y'all he shouldn't have did that? She said Steele spoke like Cassie wanted it, and she didn't. Sean Combs used violence, threats, substances over the last. Okay. So then she starts quoting Cassie's letter. Sean Combs used violence. That's what it was. Okay. Yep. Substances over my career. I spent the last 7 years getting clean. She talks about suicide, nightmares, and flashbacks. And then lastly, your boy got a last up with Diddy. We almost done.